and justice for all. Thank you. All right. Thank you for attending the October 3rd Alton Board of Selectmen's meeting. We'll start by amending. I'd like to make an amendment to the agenda and move old business winter road maintenance up to after appointments, if the board's okay with that.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Can I get a motion to accept the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, announcements. The public participation policy applies to all selectmen's meetings. A copy of this is on the back of each agenda posted in this meeting room and on our website. The town clerk tax collector's office will be closed on Thursday, October 13th, 2022 to attend the 97th annual town clerks conference. All right, public input. Anybody that wishes to speak? This is on agenda items only, by the way, just so you.
Yes,
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll try not to stretch that. Hi, Richard Shea. Just three brief comments. I watched last week's meeting. And in the course of discussing individual department budgets, there had been discussion last year about the desirability of having a complete town preliminary budget for the selectmen to reference, so that as they approved or disapproved individual departments, they have some idea of whether they need to be generous or to cut or something in between. As far as I know, that hasn't occurred. And maybe you folks have it and it just hasn't been public. But if not, I would hope that you could work up something along that line for reference purposes. Secondly, I was disappointed that the joint meeting proposed for the Budget Committee and the Board of Selectmen didn't come to pass. I assume that was because of scheduling. I don't know, but I hope that efforts along that line will continue in the future. And thirdly, in terms of the Budget Committee, as far as I can tell, their meetings are not put online. I had called the town hall in the summer to inquire, and I was told they had some technical difficulties, but the next meeting would be, but best I could tell, it was not. And their meeting minutes usually are 2 or 3 months behind in terms of posting them on the town website. So if that could be addressed, I would be very much appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill Nims, I live on 14 Hazlet Road. I know there's an agenda item for the winter maintenance. I wasn't sure what discussion would take place when that agenda item came up, so I didn't know if I had to say something additional or we would interact when that came up.
As far as the road, yeah, I just don't think we're there yet, but if you have something that you'd like to say, you can, and then if we decide to address the winter road maintenance thing, we'll do that when we get to it.
Okay, I guess the key thing, as I had said at the last meeting, was that the plow driver felt it was a lot easier if he came in and continued on to Hazlet Road and went around the turnaround at the end of our road and came back out, rather than coming to a dead end with 2 private roads right there, trying to make sure that he doesn't plow in those 2 roads and get all out of the way and get turned around at the same time. So I'm hoping that that's your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Rick St. Age, I live on Dan Kelly Drive, and I wasn't quite clear on your answer if there was going to be additional time for the public to speak during the winter roads.
It'll be consented of the board when we get to that, and if they decide that we want to let people speak, we will.
Okay. I do have some concerns. There's been some changes on our road in this past year with some new buildings, new homes that have gone up. And the area for the snow removal has gotten quite a bit more complicated since last winter. So I'm concerned of how the removal of that snow from that area where the three roads come together and where that snow may end up in the long run.
Okay.
There's some drainage issues there. It is a dirt road. It was built to the town specs. I personally spent some money 3-4 years ago to improve that road, digging it out to make it more firm, so the heavier equipment wouldn't have an issue. So I just hope that you consider what us taxpayers have invested in these private roads to bring them up to town standards, with the understanding that the town would participate and just do winter maintenance on them.
Okay.
And that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Well, that being said, we'll discuss the winter road maintenance. What are you gentlemen's thoughts? I know you guys talked about it a little bit last week. I wasn't here, but I will,
If I may.
Yeah, absolutely.
On Hazlet Drive, I actually went back out and looked at that personally last week. And I'm also the selectman a few years ago that went out there and looked at that
Yep.
with the road agent and the plow driver at the time to look at if there was adequate space for them to turn around at the end of the road and come back out. So the work that we had asked to be done was done. Trees were removed and things were done. So I believe that in that aspect of that road, that it would actually be easier for the driver to go through and turn around on Hazlet Drive, in my opinion. And I think the same situation happens on Dan Kelly Drive. It looks as though that needs to be possibly maintained properly to keep the snow clear and to be able to plow it through there and be able to turn around in that where the three roads are and everything.
Yep.
And that's what I have to say right now.
Yeah, I also went down, and looked at Hazlet. I agree. Looks like it's easier for the plow guy to turn around where he has been. But I didn't know how you guys felt. Because it would be easier for the plow guy, but being the private stretch, are we gonna go charge like we were supposed to in years past? Or how are we gonna handle that if we decide to go with
And that's
easier for the plow guy?
one of my
Yeah.
problems. If this is gonna get reversed, I think the people need to have a real understanding of what it's gonna cost to have the town plow it as opposed to what it would cost to have a private guy plow it, because the town has a lot more money invested as far as, I mean, the private guys, like Ruben's got a ton of money invested in plowing stuff.
Yeah.
But the towns, you go put a 10-wheeler down there, you've got to bill out for what that 10-wheeler costs and not what a plow truck costs.
Right.
Not only that, is my only other thing is how many other people are gonna come to us and say, well, you plow this road, this road, and this road, these are all private roads, why aren't you plowing my road?
Well, we had to go back to how much, what was the cost on all these roads that weren't being paid that we didn't bill out for some reason after we decided that they were gonna pay for whatever mileage they have. I mean,
And granted, most of these roads were taken over plowing before probably any of us, maybe Ruben, but before most of us were even sitting here. So the difference is do we hold any liability if something happens, if we mess up somebody's lawn when we plow it or anything like that?
I guess it depends on how egregious it is as to whether we hold liability for that. I mean, if it's most of the time, if the incident occurs and it's within the right of way, what would be considered the right of way, then no, we wouldn't be liable for anything like that. But that's another, because I'm assuming that when they revisited the private roads with Ken Roberts, and when they went out there, that consideration would have been taken into any stone walls, mailboxes, anything like that that doesn't meet the current town standards as far as road width.
And then my last question that I would want to be cleaned up is, are we legally allowed to expend town funds on private property?
Yes, sir. We are. There is an RSA that is done primarily for that. Just go back, give you a little history because you weren't sitting here like you
Right,
said.
that's,
Back in the 90s, this all came about, then it got real big. Mount Major Park over to Rogers Way.
yep.
Okay, we have a hill over there. We go up, we go down. We turn around with a six-wheeler, we can't get back up. We kept getting stuck with a wing and a head plow.
Yep.
We were calling tow trucks. So finally the road agent said, well, just go through Rogers Way. They won't care. So we did. They picked the plow up, shut the sander off and drove through several times a night. That all it did was pack it down. Neighbors came forward and he says, stop using our road. If you're not going to put your plow down and turn your sander on, don't use our road to come back and forth. And the town said, well, we're saving $600 to do this because we're not getting towed out. So there was an RSA in there to the town's benefit. We could do it. That was the town's benefit because it was costing us so much money to get towed
Yep.
out.
Makes sense.
We didn't have the pickup trucks back then for plowing. We didn't have all the 1 tons we have now.
Right.
So that was the need for the greater public good. Then it escalated from there, but we had roads over the years, and I'm going back to Dick Drew, when he was road agent many years ago, Malcolm Simons. I can't remember them all. We did one out in South Alton, Kimball Lane. It was a driveway to one house. Another one was Eugene up here off of Powder Mill Road, went to one house. So a lot of old time favorites, I want to say,
Well, that's,
done. So we corrected those over the years. Since then, Alton established quite a winter road maintenance program on private roads. There was a public need because more and more people are living up here year round. One was we had to look at it for fire and safety, police, fire trucks, ambulance getting in and out. The selectmen made it, if they brought the roads up to what the road agent wanted, such as they have on Hazlitt Road, Dan Kelly Drive, that we would plow them.
was it for a fee though that we would? plow?
It was for a fee. Why the fee was not getting done, that goes back to the highway department between the road agent.
Okay.
Not getting either the time, the slips, the materials, getting it done and having the secretary build it out. I don't know. That fell by the wayside. I always assumed it was getting done as a selectman, but
Right.
evidently it wasn't. And I feel like the other gentleman, Hazlitt's, if I was plowing that with a six-wheeler, I'd want to be able to go in,
Right.
back
I
up,
didn't
come right back out the wing,
look at it.
instead of making a 10-point turn in the middle of a roundabout.
Right.
Trying to get and keeping the snow away from a private road that goes to the other side of Alton Shores Road and Hazlitt Road instead of piling snow up. I'd get frustrated if I was a driver having to do that. Dan Kelly Drive, same thing. As far as Jenny Drive, I can't see it. That's more like a driveway. There are three, I think there's 3 homes I counted past that. That was a development done by Lakewood Estates. The town never did it. The town went by, but we don't plow that in. We're just making a windrow like we would on a driveway. We're not leaving a head plow with snow just sitting.
Sitting at the end, right?
Spring Street extension, and that's the way I took it, because that's where I went up to look at. That's gonna be a difficult one, but they did not petition us to look at that, taking it back over. Proctor Road, same thing. Spring Street extension goes down, we go up, and the town property ends right at the top of the flat. So what do? Back down that hill, try to turn around,
Right.
come back out. And I'd leave that to Department of Public Works Director, figure that one out, unless the people come back and petition us. But the 2 I had mentioned, I think the town should reconsider. I'm trying to figure out the rate, and I wanted to ask the Public Works Director that. The rate of 248 that he has up at the top of the list, send costs 114. I was going to ask him if he could just explain that just a little bit more in detail to me.
Is something you can elaborate on?
I mean, great chart he laid out here for me, but I'm trying to figure out, is that per minute you're looking at, or per section of mile, or per section of foot, Scott?
Do you have copies?
I'll take a look at, I did bring my folder here from what
I got 2
Becky has.
And all I'd have to do is look at Hazlitt Drive, if you
I look
could.
at them
for
all
me.
the time. Oh. You talking about the
Or actually, Dan Kelly Drive has more of a headline to it.
Yeah, the increments are broken down by the plow drivers on a per minute as to how long it actually takes them to do that. And then how many minutes are attributed to each storm. So for an example, I mean, as you've seen on your sheets
Yes, sir.
here, sometimes these storms on the breakdown, I believe, they're plowed multiple times.
I see that. So it's all based by minutes though, correct?
Correct.
Okay, sanding is done though by the foot.
Sanding cost would be that if in fact if that is just what has taken place during that time, I believe. I'll have to double check on that one, on the sanding one.
The plowing, you're below the average. What the private sector is out there. Should be about $4 a minute now.
Yeah, and that is how it's done
Yeah.
because our rates are based upon the FEMA rates.
Right.
Which are considerably less than what private sector rates are.
But
So,
we're not there to make a profit, but we're there to cover the cost.
Absolutely.
right, I
the-
mean,
The sanding each time and that's for the whole road, I take it, say, let's just take the Dan Kelly Drive. If you would, 12/11/2021.
Yep.
You got $114 for cost. Total was $126.40,
correct.
correct?
Yep.
To sand that whole road.
That's a sand.
So if all the neighbors pay that, that's cheap. And I think it's up to the neighbors to make sure they all talk to the neighbors, and hopefully they all get along and say, if we're going to continue to have this done, we have to have it done, paid by everybody. And that's up to the neighbors. And then
Right.
as the town, we need to send a bill out and say, we're only picking up 50% of payment on these roads. I think the town then at that point does have a right to say, you're only getting 50%, talk to your neighbors because you can't keep doing it at just at 50%.
And if you recall, when I was once again, this is all your decision. My job is to provide you with all the data that I can. And the data research indicated that since 2014, either there had been billing or they had not been billing done by the town. And there had been considerable, all the way back many, many years, that there were some people on those roads that did not pay, not 1 cent to the town. And that's where you get into the issue of spending public funds on private property. And as you mentioned, there is an RSA that can be declared by the Board of Selectmen in order to null and void that and maintain those roads in the wintertime. Once again, boards, tread lightly sometimes when they do that, because sometimes that can open up the floodgates. And I think that's the reason why, what I've seen in other communities, why boards are very cautious about when they do that. And I think you've cited a couple of perfect examples where it does make sense, once again, for turnaround purposes. We run into the same situation on Spring Street Extension in order to turn around, because that road literally just stops. There is no turnaround. There is no place to turn around there. So, I mean, there's certainly some roads that it's advantageous for us to go and turn around in those different locations. Can they be done otherwise? Can we turn around in other locations? Yeah, you can. The people, for an example, on Hazlet, that's a great place to turn around. And I certainly, appreciate their efforts that they've undertaken down there under the board's request and the prior road agent's request. But if in fact I was on Sunset, for an example, because that plow driver is going to take a full plow wing and go right down Hazlet and go right by the end of Sunset and leave about a 4-foot windrow there, or a 2-foot windrow, or whatever it may be for that given storm or duration of that storm. He's not going to clean out that intersection. Okay, so if I was on Sunset, I would probably be in and saying, well, how come you're going down there and you don't clean out the intersection? because one, generally, we always turn right, limit. You would normally clean that intersection, turn right, back up, then clean and go back out. So there's a lot of different, back and forth that you can do for the rationale side of it, but I hope I didn't mean to belabor this. as far
No,
as-
I'm more information I'm happy with, because the people on Sunset, if it behooved them, it would help out the town to be able to go straight through and straight in and straight out. Make your job a lot easier instead of trying to turn around that little cul-de-sac at the end of Sunset's Road.
Right.
And it's at times I sit there, and I'm not in your position, trust me, but I've been out there since 1988 plowing until I bought the store, and I gave that up about 10 years ago. And I used to do 60 places in town. Some of them Lakewood Estates, I used to do just my pickup truck. But I also wonder at times, why aren't we using the smaller trucks on some of these roads that possibly better use? But I know you'd have to have one truck following a big truck. I'm also why don't we have little trucks doing the intersection for the big trucks, so they're not spending 10 minutes backing up into the state roads, pushing it over, and cleaning up like 11D Rand Hill Road on the west side, and saying, why don't we have one of the 1-tons going around and clean those up? So when the big truck gets there, he just goes right straight through and right straight out. But I'm not the public works director nor the road agent, so I'm not gonna say any more on that. I just think 2 of these roads, the Spring Street, I believe that was Spring Street Extension that was on that list, you might have to think about. I myself tonight would like the Board of Selectmen to reconsider Hazlet and also reconsider Dan Cully Drive. But at least I'll put it this way, I'm reconsidering. How you two want to look at it, that's up to you.
Again, those are the 2 that were petitioned. I know for a fact that work has been done on both of them by the residents to try to make it more accommodating and to meet the standards of the highway department. As far as the other 3, they weren't petitioned, but I feel as though that those 2 roads would definitely do make it easier to be able to plow and turn around. And I have to agree with Ruben. It might make sense later on down the road to possibly do a couple of these roads that are difficult to turn around with the larger trucks, to use the pickup trucks. But in my opinion, I think we should reinstate Dan Kelly and Hazlet, because those were the 2 that were petitioned. And I think that they meet the standard, in my opinion.
I guess I don't, my only thing is if we're gonna reinstate them, we reinstate them all, because we're just gonna be sitting here again in 2 weeks with the next batch of people coming in here saying, why aren't you doing our roads? You said no to them the first time, and now you've changed your mind because people are upset and they come in and see it. But I still think, and it's nothing against the people, I just think that we're kind of in a spot here where we either do it all or we do none of it. You know what I mean? Because I think you're gonna end up opening up a bigger problem by just doing these. So if we're gonna do them, let's do what we've been doing. But I think we should definitely look into the billing area end of it, because.
Oh, well, definitely.
I mean, these 2 roads do make it easier for the trucks to turn around.
Yes.
Everything else. So it does make it easier for the town, but I believe we should be billing
Absolutely.
what we're doing. And honestly, I think it's a road by road case. I think if we're doing one, it's a driveway down to one house. Well, that doesn't make it easier for the town, at least.
Correct.
That's how, that's what I'm leaning towards.
So do we take it, like you said, we got these 2 on the table, we vote on these 2 and then move to the next ones if they come forward?
That's the way I feel.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, because these were the 2 that were petitioned for now. And we definitely have to look at how the billing is done and look back in the billing and update that with the residents, the taxpayers.
All right, well, I will go with the board on this as long as the billing is being done correctly as far as the way that we decided it should be. I'll move for these two. Get these back on the.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make two motions to this.
All right.
Good. First motion would be to reestablish the winter maintenance program on Hazlet Drive and Dan Kelly Drive.
Second,
I'll second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Second motion, Mr. Chairman, is as of July 2023 first selectmen's meeting. I won't be here because I don't have any plans on running again this spring. But I'd like to see the board revisit and meet with the Department of Public Works Director to see if the bills have been paid. If they have not been paid, I would suggest in my motion, would like to see the Board of Selectmen send letters to those folks that are out on those roads and say, if these bills are not paid by September 1st, winter maintenance will not happen the second year. And it's only a fair shot. If we're going to put our equipment out there, and there's a time which is a very reasonable rate they're getting, they would not get that from a private contractor,
right.
especially if they're having the sand done.
Right.
The least they can do is pay it forward back to the community of the taxpayers that are putting it out there. So that would be my other motion, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. All right. Budget presentations. Actually, I'm sorry. DPW winter maintenance, de-icing materials purchase. Just did this one myself. This is a good one.
Yeah, as you can see, salt's gone up again. We were at 79.50, I believe, last year, if my recollection is correct. Now state bid is at 85.20, although Morton came and sent letters out at 84.50. So I'd like to have permission to purchase from both salt providers. Of course, we'll purchase from the cheaper one, but it's always nice to have two providers. If in fact you end up having an issue with delivery, which you never know what's going to happen with this current state of the economy that way. So I'd like to have permission to purchase from either salt provider, which those are the only two that have provided any type of a quote for that. And then for the liquid that we use for treating our salt, which is through Innovative Surface Solutions, they are the state bid for that material. That's for the magnesium chloride with organics as far as the sugar. And that price is the contract price at $1.40.
Well, sir, if you want to quit using less salt in Jesus Valley Road, my pine trees would like it a lot better. That's almost dead over the last 2 years.
I don't think we use any,
Yes, you do, sir.
really.
I see it come right out when the sand is dumped. And last year I saw piles like that out by my driveway. And I don't use salt at my house, so.
Yeah, I mean.
I'm not going to say it's your salt. It's just over the years, but the culvert is right there. Both sides of the hill come right in like that. It goes into the culvert down to the pine. So
We don't, in any of our sand applications now, unless it's a real situation that we break traction on that road and we're carrying just a ballast of a sand salt mix. All gravel roads in the town of Alton only receive a straight sand or a stone application. They
Okay.
do not receive any sand salt mixed.
the brownish color you were putting out last year, what was that? Was that your mixture?
That was that was our treated salt, which would only be on asphalt.
Yeah, which is the first 600 feet of Jesus Valley Road is asphalt.
And I would say that in the future, based upon the condition of Jesus Valley Road, that would probably not be taking place on that road.
Let's hope not. Thank you.
Understanding that the state uses quite a bit, and anything that comes in now will probably come from the state road.
Okay. I'm just saying, if you want to cut back on a little bit more salt, you can start doing my, I'll just go with
Just
sand.
for the public's record, we use about 50% of what the state of New Hampshire uses on salt applications to the town roads in Alton. So what you see is being poured on Route 11 and Route 28 and any of the state roads is twice as much as what we use.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
So environmentally, you have chosen to go the right route. And also the type of salt where it's actually treated and at a lesser does not and isn't a detriment to the environment like what you've seen in the past.
So
So
I used to work for the state too for 5 years, so I do understand what you're saying.
All right. Can I get a motion on that?
Chairman, I make a motion to allow the Public Works Director and Town Administrator into agreements for the de-icing materials purchase.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks,
Thank you.
Scott.
Thank you.
All right. Budget presentations. Code official, building inspector.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Evening, Joe.
Evening.
Just have a quick overview form. Just to highlight on the increase. There's really not much as far as it's mainly benefit buyout and wages.
Yeah. Just said there's very few changes. There's only 2 line increases or increase. Yeah.
Benefit buyout.
Yeah, the benefit buyout, which adds in, what is it?
John, it says it's John's longevity pay for his over 10-year mark. He was a salaried employee with the town.
Gets added in, and then the wages line, it's just the calculations as set by board for COLA and merit. Calculate those. We did decrease the wages overtime line slightly. Because we used to do it, the overtime was when town hall was open late twice a month. We're not doing that now, but I kept some in there because Cat does meetings occasionally, whatever.
So you'll probably end out the year end about 105,000 spent expenditures out of your budget on average, if you run a course average of what you've been spending.
I would say that's. Would you say that again, please?
You should be coming within expenditures of roughly 100,000, 102,000
Probably.
year end expenditures, because you're going on average about $7,200 a month on your budget, because at 9 months you were at 70,000. So I'm just estimating 70,000 a month, and 9 months is 63. So if I went 8, that would be 72. So you got 3 more months, so about another 24,000 be coming out of your budget to 25. If everything's a perfect world.
Yeah.
Okay. So you'll have a little surplus, but not much.
Well, and then the other half of that is last year we finished up, I forget the exact number. It was about $20,000 over. And I foresee that we'll end up with a surplus surplus this year.
Good.
Great things are going. There's quite a few building permits.
Yeah. I started last week with 6 house permits in my basket. As long as I've been here, I've never had that many house permits at one time. And I've received several more, 3 more And it's been like that all year.
I think it's fair to say we're growing a little bit.
We are.
Just a little.
We are.
Oh, gentlemen, I don't have, I see $600 increase here and I don't have an issue with that. That's,
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to approve the building department's budget for 2023 of 117,450.
second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, John.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
All right, assessing.
Everybody.
Evening.
John's busy, and when John gets busy, then I get busy. Hopefully, we'll expand the tax base even more and on we go. But yeah, my budget is pretty straightforward from last year. The only two things that I really had any significant increase in at all was wages based on the 2% and 4% for COLA and merit respectively, and a slight increase in my contracted services. I am budgeted right now to pick up about 810 properties by cyclical revaluation, and I need to be doing about 1,100. So I'm ramping that budget up about $3,000 a year over the next 5 years to bring it up to the standard to be able to pick up all 5,800 parcels improved, well, 4,900 improved parcels in the town of Alton over the 5 year life cycle. Previous, the assessing department was using skip cutting to do pickups, and his rate was significantly lower than the contract company that came in afterwards with Whitney Consulting. They charged $26 a parcel versus Skip, I believe, charged 20. So the budget doesn't stretch as far, the costs are increasing, and so I'm trying to ramp it up to be able to stay current with the statutes. Other than that, I don't think anything at all changed. I'm taking $5,100 out of the map updating in that it was budgeted for last year already to pay the maintenance cost, but the maps are being delivered literally as we speak. So we don't have the maintenance cost for 22. So we're going to encumber that and use it to pay for 23. So that cost will come back for the 24 budget, but I can take that $5,100 out for this year. So that helps to offset some of that cost. And the other thing is I halved my vehicle maintenance based on what we've seen for expenditures so far and the fact that I'm sharing the truck with the IT department.
So one thing for you, Rob, that I have. Contract services, does this include Avatar too?
It does not. Avatar is in Josh's budget.
Okay. As a taxpayer and as a board of selectmen getting many complaints about Avatar and their system. It's been 3 years now with Avatar.
Actually, Avatar just finally came online in at the end of 2021.
Okay. It's worse than our old system. Our old system, you could put in, and I'll just use my road, Jesus Valley. It come up with everything on Jesus Valley. You go now to Avatar, it says look up by street name. Click on street name, all the streets come up in alphabetical order.
Yeah.
So you spend 5 minutes just scrolling through. Look up property by name, same thing. It looks like they went backwards instead of forward. It's not a very user-friendly system to me. I know I've had realtors say stuff to me, had banker loan
I
officers.
hear it too.
Okay, and I'm sure, well, I know you do on that one from the loan officers especially.
Yep.
Is there any way of talking to them to make it more user-friendly? I mean, we're paying for a service.
Understood. Yes, I have attempted to ask them. However, we're going to, as we speak, the GIS system is being delivered by the end of next week. We should be able to have everybody's property card available on a GIS system where they can just click on the map of their own property, get their property record card and all their assessment data without having to even go to the Avatar
Well,
site.
and that's great because the old system, we could click on it. We
Sure.
had our floor plan, everything right there. This one, not so. So I'm just asking more so for the taxpayers at this point on that.
Understood. And I will absolutely ask Avatar again, although having asked for services from Avatar in the past has not led to anything being changed.
All right, so can I ask you this question? Would it behoove the town to send them a letter saying you have not lived up to the expectations that we were sold back in 3 years ago?
I can't answer that question.
You weren't
I don't
part of
know. I inherited this when I got
I
here. So
understand that, yeah.
I can say that if the town is unsatisfied with any product that they have, they absolutely can. So if the select board wishes to send a letter to Avatar indicating that they're not satisfied with their product and suggest ways that they feel they can improve it, absolutely. Whether or not that will do anything, I can't say because.
Rob, is there any
just
other
even
companies
media.
other than Avatar that would handle this sort of? I know Avatar's huge. I know they
Well,
do
not
a lot.
without going through a complete
Redoing
conversion
everything.
and repaying the cost. So you'd be throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Unfortunately,
Right.
the service that Avatar provides is the service that comes with, and I can speak just from the experience of using their software. It's very, very good. The fact that they have a less than stellar online presence, there's not much that I can really do about that because it doesn't fall within my jurisdiction to do anything with it. Other than what I can do to work around that is to put the GIS system that we're working on in place to make it more convenient for people. In other words, it's working around. And so I understand the nature of the question, but short of saying, all right, we're going to throw the whole Avatar system away, which in my opinion would be crazy because you just bought it.
No, I
No,
understand.
I understand that.
Have
I
to make it
understand
more
that.
efficient.
Which is fine. I mean, I guess it's job security from my perspective. So
I'm just looking from the standpoint of what we paid for. And what
Absolutely.
I'm seeing the finished product being
Yep.
is not what I was led to believe that we were getting.
yeah,
And it was
that,
supposed to be so much better than the company out of Massachusetts that we had. We were told things would be better, clearer, but I guess what I'm hearing is it was clearer more from the assessor's point than it is from the taxpayer.
possible.
Like you said, you can't answer.
I can't really speak to the end user experience anyway, because I have the thing sitting in front of me all day, every day. So I don't have to go online to look it up. That said, I have heard lots of frustration, same as you guys have, that people are frustrated that there is a service that is, my understanding is the town didn't wish to pay for it from taxpayer dollars, but there is a service that Avatar provides for an additional fee that allows people to look at all of the information that's present on the tax card versus just the, you can see your assessment broken down by the three major components, but you can't see the math behind them. You have to come in and talk to me, which in one sense is advantageous to me because people aren't drawing conclusions. If you've looked at a tax card, it's more complicated than just 1 + 2 = 3. And so in one sense, that works to my advantage because people have to come in and speak with me about it. And that's generally where I can make inroads with.
But overall,
trust and working
if somebody asks me in the future, I can say, there's a new system coming
Yep.
online.
GIS system, and I intend to have that up and online. Josh and I are getting ready to get the property cards printed and linked and deployed within the next 2 weeks.
The GIS system is much more user friendly too.
From the towns that I've seen that have it, absolutely 100%.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, yeah, I use it.
it's very simple.
Very
It
much
works with
lots
Google
of-
Maps. You just open it up, it overlays the town tax map. You click on your place and there's your property card, some basic information, who owns it, what's the street address, what's the map and lot number, and link here for your PDF. And then from there, additional layers can be provided at additional cost, of course, to any other department that wants to get on there. So highway, fire, police, what have you.
At the end of your budget this year, do you have any big expenditures coming out except your regular weekly payroll? That would be your contracted services?
Yep.
Would be get hit hard?
That's pretty much the only one that I have that really has any significant balance to it. And I think we've spent.
Today, you spent about 86, just call it 87,000 out of your
Yeah.
budget. And
Yeah.
right now you've got $19,977 left in your contracted
Yeah,
services.
and they are out in the field doing cyclicals right now until that budget is expended. So it will be entirely expended. Yes.
Expended. Okay, no, that's fine. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the assessing department budget for $151,644.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you very much, Rob. And I will check with Avatar to see if we can get them to make that a little better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Town clerk, tax collector.
Good evening, gentlemen. So should I start?
Just go ahead.
Love it.
Give them the overview. Should be a pretty straightforward
Pretty
one.
straightforward.
It's pretty
Um,
redundant.
Just from last year to this year, employee changes, which will offset, you'll see that there's a decrease in what our budget is. There is a line item, NHCTCA certification, requesting $300. I just got a scholarship for last year, so that was covered by the association. And it's a 4-year program. But other than that, really not a lot of changes.
No.
I like it.
Looks good.
It's pretty good.
Absolutely.
Gentlemen, I'll make a motion if anybody's that we approve the town clerk tax collector's budget at 168,887.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Oh,
you.
you got
I think I'm here
elections
again
now.
for elections.
Elections and registration.
So you'll see in this line that it's gone down approximately 16%. But it was brought to my attention by the supervisors today that they're looking to see if they can get a COLA, at least a COLA increase. Where they're elected officials, I think that would be a board of selectmen authority at that point to decide if they can qualify for that. I did check around. There's another town, Molten Borough, around us. They have about 4,000 registered voters. We have almost 4,300. And their supervisors make $13 an hour. That's a huge jump because right now they're making $11 an hour. So just food for thought. Because that's not in the supervisor salary, their wages.
Mr. Chairman,
Sir.
this time I'd like to have the town administrator come back to us next week with this budget with a COLA at least in their form. I don't think we have many employees in town that we pay less than $15 an hour. I don't feel it's fair to ask our citizens to do the same thing, especially on the registration part of it, where it can have disgruntled registries at the time. Sometimes, most times, everyone's fair, but they're sitting in a position working by the hour. I still think it should at least be a minimum of 15. So if the town administrator, tax collector, town clerk can come back with us next week with an updated,
Yep.
then we can vote on a bottom line
For the election
for the election
budget. Yeah,
registration.
definitely with all their work that they're doing and cleaning up.
Plus-
Just since the last election, we had about 5 new voters per week.
And then you're gonna have the general election coming up in November. And then you've got the deliberative session
Yep.
coming up. And I think next December you have,
We'll be getting ready for presidential next
Primaries,
year, this time.
Would you rather have me figure it out right now?
can if you want, sir.
It's pretty straightforward.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I
I didn't bring my calculator
No,
tonight.
that's
I've been
fine.
doing everything in my head and I don't want to make that accurate of a decision.
You have currently, you're budgeting for 3 supervisors, correct?
Great, yeah.
3. So if it pleases the board, those numbers respectively. So under the justification sheet, She has $11 an hour for 145 hours per supervisor.
Mhm.
So going to $15 an hour brings it per supervisor from 1,595 to $2,175. And then multiplying that by 3 supervisors comes to 6,525. So it's roughly a little less than $2,000 increase.
Fix the bottom line by,
Change the bottom line. Let's see, it's minus 7, 22, 85. Let's see, so it's,
It's about
It's different.
17.
yep, 1740. So plus 15.
And that's still lower than last year's budget as well.
Yeah. So that brings it to 17,504.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the election registrations budget to $17,504, increase being in the supervisor's wages.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Have a good night.
You too.
Legal. It's you.
Yeah, that's me. So going into the legal budget, what you see is the only increase here in the legal budget is line 185, which is the police prosecutor. According to the contract that the town has with the police prosecutor, each year they have a 2-year, up to a max of 2% COLA based on, I think it's July's CPI, which was well over 2%. So that 2% cap is what bumped it from 53,676 to 54,750. The rest of the legal lines, I kept level funded. According to our current expenditures, we're still doing well with the legal fund, and we haven't really had enough really to get a full experience as to the changes we've made in legal as far as the hourly, but so far things have been running in line. But of course, you know, different cases are popping up here and there, but all in all, we're running good on the illegal budget. So I don't see any reason to increase that at all.
Chairman, make a motion to approve the legal operating budget 2023 of 138,968.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Interest short term.
Yep, and this one's mine as well. You see, interest short term is just mainly a placeholder. It's only got $1 in the line.
I didn't have a page for that in my book, sir.
What's that?
I didn't have a page for that in my book, just to let you know.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Right here between the two, nothing.
To nothing. Apologize.
That's all right. That's all right. I figured it had to be $1.
Well, it was $1.
Yeah, I
Yes.
figured it had to be $1 because the
Yeah.
town hasn't borrowed since 1990, if I remember right.
Yeah, and like I said, this is just a placeholder in case we do get involved. Based on the justification sheet, and I do apologize, you didn't have that. So I don't see any reason to change that this year. I don't have anything anticipated.
I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Don't even talk about it.
Budget committee. So that's gonna be me too. They submitted it by email, but. All right, folks, on the budget committee, what you'll see, the increase is in line 0115. And I'll speak to this. This is basically was a comment that was made up by a gentleman in the audience as well. The increase in that is if you remember, the budget committee had decided to pull out the transcribers' wages, part-time wages, because they went to an automatic transcribing system. Fortunately, that software failed and was not working as intended. for them. So this year, the budget committee has put that money back into the wages so that they have somebody to transcribe their minutes and hopefully get that back on track and a little bit quicker to the public.
I'll just comment on, because at that meeting I went to, they were talking about at that point. Really, nobody made the decision except for the chairman because they didn't know much about the software. So I do have a concern, though. I have not heard from the budget committee or anything about the budget committee since my last meeting. So I'm getting a little concerned on that point. But that's out of our hands. That's an elected body.
I do know that we are facilitating some conversation or some communication, or trying to at least, get some movement.
Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budget committee's budget of $3,201 for the year 2023.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Audio visual meeting equipment.
Gentlemen, the audio visual line, or budget, I should say, you'll see there's a reduction of $1,500 from 3,500 to 2,000. The reason for that is that we were able to, a lot of the upgrades that our IT manager was looking for in audio visual, we're going to be able to capitalize on through the grant with the wireless microphone systems and stuff. So wouldn't be a need to, we have nothing else more planned, but this $2,000 would cover any unforeseen upgrades and replacements that we need.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the audio-visual budget for $2,000.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Fire department.
This one is not mine.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Basically, I did the best I could to keep the budget down as best I could, but still move forward. One of the things that we had talked about, and we're moving forward with, is adding 2 more staff. As long as the budget goes through. So after town meeting. Also, I come to you guys and talk to you about a bump in pay for the full-time staff. And then there's still COLA and merit for the rest of the staff. If you look at the budget, for the most part, you're going to see that the increases are all in places I have no control over. They're payroll based. And then heat, electric, and fuel. You'll notice some decreases in the payroll line. As we increase full-time staff, we can decrease some of the payroll that goes to the per diem shift work. The other thing, and I don't know why I never thought of this earlier, the dispatch fee, we're going to split it between the 2 budgets because they dispatch the fire and the ambulance.
That made your budget look good on that half a cut.
Oh, yeah.
So you flip to the other side, but at least the revolving account is paying for half of it.
Yeah. I didn't obviously do that for that reason, but it's like.
Never thought you did, sir.
Foolish that we haven't done it before. So there's that. The air packs are another line there was a lease that we're paying 19,000 for. We paid that lease off this year. So that decreases that as well. And then the other one you'll see I brought down to $0 is down to $1 is the dry hydrant account. We have a fund, or somebody had found a fund that was established or hasn't been touched since 2012 to maintain and work on dry hydrants. And it's basically just over $2,000. So we're going to not fund that line for 1 year and use that fund up.
That was an escrow account.
Yep.
So Chief, I do have a question for you in talking about hydrants.
Yep.
The cisterns that are around town, you have several of them. I won't say several. I shouldn't say several. I don't believe you have more than 10. Maybe you do. Do we maintain those?
So we go and test them and make sure they work. That's actually something that myself and the officers have been talking about because we're not 100% sure. The town doesn't own them. Basically, we tell people to put them in and they're on private property. So what we need, and we actually need to come to you guys and work on that and make an ordinance that basically says either we'll take ownership of them and maintain them, or they must be maintained by somebody else. We want them maintained, so small repairs and things like that we do, but if one catastrophically failed and had to be replaced, I'm not 100% sure which way we go about fixing that.
I was just wondering, because I mean, over the years, I've seen them. We had one problem. One time we couldn't get to it because of the snowbank, or your department couldn't.
Right.
It was up by Chestnut Cove Road, I believe. The other one we have out on 28 South, down there by a few houses.
Yep.
And just never see any action around it. And I hope never see action around it, but I'm just wondering who maintains them. That's why.
So we go out and test every one of them at least twice a year. And then we also go out and like, we clean up the brush and weed whack around them. But as far as if they need to be replaced, something like that, the ones that are on private property, we don't really have anything in writing that says who actually is responsible for that.
Mr. Chairman, I think just to that point, I think I can reach out to Jessica too and look at the zoning ordinance, because that all came through planning with a lot of these subdivisions back in the day were required, and there was language in the.
Yep. So there's language that requires them to be put in, and then after that, it's not clear. That's the thing. It's just something that has to be
on the
cleaned up.
approvals that we're doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this budget here overall is a 7% increase.
See, that reflects on the electricity too, quite a bit.
Yeah.
The electricity and fuel.
You know, and yeah, they sent that email out kind of just in time to finalize this budget that it was going to go up 77%. And they weren't kidding.
No, they're not. They definitely aren't. No.
Again, remember that's 4 buildings.
We're all getting shocked on that.
Yes.
So your budget's going to be very tight by the end of the year.
Oh, yes.
I feel like if you don't stretch over it a little bit, huh?
So right now we are in what I would call a spending freeze for the fire department. And basically, if it doesn't keep the lights on or keep the trucks moving, we're not doing it.
Because right now, I believe balance remaining is 187 on average. You'd be looking at 227,000 if you base it on your average.
Yep.
So yeah, you're in a tight mode.
Oh yeah, in myself and the town administrator.
But you've had calls.
I've talked about it.
You can't help your calls. You can't help all of that. I understand.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at it as estimation wise.
Yep.
Looking at it. So.
Chief, where are we at calls wise as opposed to last year at this time?
So we're about 8% above.
And it's going up.
We track it every month. It's finally kind of calmed down for us a little bit, but it picks back up
As
again.
winter comes.
You know, yeah, as we get into like November and December, it picks back up.
The reason I asked is.
We're on track to do over 1,000 calls this year, which this would be the first time that's ever happened.
Wow. Right. And that's a lot for not a fire department.
Correct. Yeah. And, you know, and one of the other things is all our ambulance calls. When you think about those, if we can get to Huggins or Frisbee, they're fairly quick turnarounds, but some of our sicker patients have to go further, sometimes all the way to Portsmouth, and that really puts us out. And then we try to bring in other staff so that we're not without an ambulance for 2 hours.
Well, I definitely commend you because like I said, I live right there and I see that thing go by 10 times a day.
Oh,
And
yeah,
that's,
I see
you
it.
guys are on it all the time.
Yeah.
So I myself don't have an issue with the small increase that you have, so I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve the 1,062,296.
Second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ambulance expendable trust.
This budget again, as close to being, as last year's as we can. We did add in that line for the dispatch, line 114. So that brings it up by, $40,000. At the same time, we paid off the lease on the ambulance this year, and that brings it down by another $40,000. So they came close. Our biggest expense is consumables, all the equipment that we have to maintain, sometimes expires, that we keep on the ambulance to, basically be able to take care of patients. Overall, 3% increase.
Chief, what put you over on new equipment on your line item? The line item 201, new equipment. You had 155, showing you in the negative of 21,927.
So that is the vents that we had approved. That instead of coming directly out of the fund, they were charged to a line. Last year, you would have noticed the same thing with the boat
Right.
payment. And then at the end of the year, the finance department was able to straighten it out.
Okay. So hopefully we'll straighten it out of it.
Yeah.
At the end of the year.
Yeah, we've had the conversation already.
Okay. Because right now it shows you in the negative on that one, which I can understand with all the calls you have, but if you put that money back in, you'll be back to the plus.
Yeah.
Chairman, I make a motion to approve the ambulance revolving fund for 2023 of 138,162.
Second. All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Quick from budgets, I just wanted to make a comment to the board about the budgets, just because it was raised up earlier too. But just so you are aware, most all of the budgets are in right now. The only ones that we're waiting on right now are the numbers that we don't have from Primex. That's why we can't compile an entire budget. But based on that, all of the budgets that have been turned in by the department, finance and myself are keeping a running tally of where we're at and percentage increases. So right now, without all of those numbers, and if they were to stay reasonably close to the same, we're at a 6.4% increase for the entire operating budget right now. So I know there's a little bit of fluctuation between, a few of the numbers we're waiting on, but right now that's what we're maintaining.
What's reason to say that our department heads are doing their job?
Well, they're doing very well, considering the,
Very good job.
the hurdles we have to overcome with all the increases in utilities and things of that nature. They think they've been doing very well balancing that out.
Good job.
So,
I think they're doing pretty well so far.
and as soon as we do have those numbers, the final numbers in from Primex and stuff like that, I will make sure that the board has a copy of that spreadsheet and all the numbers, so you can see the whole picture as soon as possible too.
Thank you.
Perfect. All right. Selectmen's reports, Mr. Morse.
Nothing new. We have the 11th, I believe. Yes, we have a meeting the 11th on the CIP meeting.
Mr. Wentworth,
I think since last Monday, sir, I didn't have any meetings.
Mr. Larshall,
Nothing new at this time.
nothing for me. Town administrator reports.
Okay. First thing I wanted to run by the board was, does the board wish to have a budget work session on October 12th on the off week? We still have a few more budgets to go through, but some of the ones that we're waiting, that we haven't gone through yet are bigger ones. Highway, we have to do DPW.
What is the day?
The 12th
It's a Wednesday.
is a Wednesday. It would be next.
Wednesdays are tough for me, really, just because of what I got going on.
If there's another day, I don't have any.
Tuesdays would work. I mean, I don't know what everybody else's is, but I. My job.
Yeah.
And I'm in the middle of the same thing over there as I am sitting here, so.
Doesn't matter to me, gentlemen. I just want to get it done.
Yeah,
Yeah, sooner the better, I think.
I was just looking at it. I mean, it would just, I figured we could put on budgets on that evening and cross a lot of them up.
Rather not sit here though for 3 hours on an off week though. That's
No,
all.
I won't do that to you, but I'll throw in a big one and then some, one or two big ones and then the rest of some of the smaller ones.
What's the 11th look like as far as any other meetings in here?
We have CIP meeting.
CIP?
Yeah.
So that'll be here. 13th?
That would be,
I got
A
nothing.
Thursday.
I got nothing the Thursday.
yeah, Thursday's fine.
That would be a Thursday.
Even if I had a conservation commission meeting, wouldn't matter because I can miss that for the budget.
I don't think there's anything else.
I don't think we have one. I think it's this Thursday if we were supposed to have one. I haven't seen the agenda yet, so. It's supposed to be the same as selectmen first and third, so.
Thinking 13th is free. Myself as well. What is it?
Concom.
Sorry.
Concom.
They meet
I think
downstairs.
they can go downstairs.
But I can miss that meeting for the budget still.
Okay, all right. So we could do the 13th then.
13th?
We'll just push them down to use the Heike room and we'll use the big.
They usually use the hike anyway, so.
Okay, well, we'll go ahead and schedule that on the 13th then. Budget work session.
Okay.
The other thing I needed to mention was, the master plan is available online right now in draft form. Jessica had come to me, give me an update on this and it's so the draft form is it's now compiled in full in draft form for comments. On the 18th, it's going to the planning board. So she just wanted to put it, a lot of hard work has gone into that and wanted to make sure that that the board and the public knew it was online for any comments, suggestions, so that they can work towards putting it into final form for a public hearing in November.
I had mentioned that last meeting that we were going to meet with the planning department on the 18th. And it's been a lot of work.
It looks good too. They did a good
Yes.
job.
It's coming along and
Too good.
yeah.
The only other thing I wanted to run by the board for their consideration is looking at moving forward with some of the repairs and remodels within the town hall. How would the board feel about moving towards using some ARPA funding to rectify the ADA bathroom issues downstairs? In particularly where the ladies' room is. That ladies' room is split into two different rooms. It has a natural wall in the center there. I don't know what was there years ago, but I'm assuming most of you haven't been in there unless you for occasion, but I did go in there first, making sure that it was well announced. There is one side when you come in is just the sink area and there's an open area and it's actually big enough to turn a wheelchair around in that one area. Then there's a wall there with sort of a cased opening. You walk through and there's two stalls in there, which again is big enough for wheelchair swing if it was configured properly. And so the thought is to, they're in very poor shape too. The floors have been tried to be patched. You can't match the tiles or whatnot. So there's different size tiles and a lot of lifting, some broken pieces, things of that nature. And the actual fixtures themselves are in rough shape. So the thought is to demo both sides of that. We wouldn't have to touch the outside walls. A lot of the plumbing would remain in the same area, but take those two separate rooms, fill in the cased opening and make it one wall, and then do two single stall ADA accessible bathrooms in those two locations. It wouldn't involve, going out further into any sort of demo or further. We'd be able to remain in that footprint. With that said, I have talked to John about this as well. I've been in contact with John. John is talking with Evan So as far as square footage goes, and number of fixtures recommended. So we wouldn't be, with this step, we wouldn't be changing the number of fixtures. We'd just be changing the layout and configuration. Once John is able to find out the exact number of fixtures and how we need to go, then we can talk about. Right now, I don't have any plans for the men's room situation until we find that out for sure as to whether or not we're going to reduce fixtures or anything of that nature. So
So were you using the Clough Moral Trust Fund at all or no?
yes, we were.
Okay, is it all depleted? What was
It's
it?
not completely depleted. The interest, the Clough Moral was mainly designated for the HVAC system.
It's a necessity to have the ADA compliance. So I think we should move forward on that. My opinion.
I think shouldn't we do them both though? I mean, can't have one. I think ADA falls under more than just the wheelchair access too. I think you got sink heights and all that stuff. I think there's a lot more to it than just that. So I think, I don't know, depending on what the
It
board
does.
thinks, if we're gonna do one, we might as well do them both.
We're talking about Lily,
The men's room and the.
yes, the thought is right now is, yeah, the ladies will go into, that will separate into two unisex single stall ADA bathrooms.
I got you.
And,
All right.
yeah,
I completely went.
yep, sorry. So, and that will include, you know, all the fixtures, the sink, the swing,
It would involve
the
the
toilets, yep,
Right.
the bars, everything of that nature.
Okay, sorry, that was my.
So you just need a consensus, or do you need a vote?
I would say vote.
You have a cost associated with it?
I don't right now. The only thing is, you know, it's the same issue we ran into. I don't know exactly what's in those walls yet. So. That's the only, you know, unknown is not so much the walls in this particular case, but what the plumbing, what the status of the plumbing is. As to whether or not we need to replumb everything with PVC, or if some of that's already been done, or if it's upgraded, or if we need to cut out PEX.
But the plumbing is accessible where it is, and it can be reutilized where it is.
Yes, yeah. I mean,
But not even a general part, what the appliances, the utensils are gonna cost, the bars, wiring, initial estimate of rough plumbing, not that I'm gonna hold you to it, but an idea of what you anticipate maybe spending. I know once you get in the walls, that could be different.
right.
I know it's a remodel job. Expenses could change, but somewhat of an idea.
Yeah, the estimated cost is 30 grand.
That's your estimate?
Mhm.
What you got in your opera funds, right?
So right now we have, so there's $44,417.73 left from the first disbursement. We just got the second one, so the second one is another 278,000.
Chairman, I have make a motion to allow the town administrator to do the rehab of the ladies' restrooms downstairs.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I have a question first, though.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It is gonna go over the 30,000. Could we be informed?
Yes, absolutely. And my plan. would
Yeah,
be-
I'm not gonna say I'm gonna stop you at 30,000. It'd just be nice to know that it doesn't come in at 45.
Right.
After we might assume 30 to 35 or 10% increase or 20% increase ends up being a 40 or 50% increase. That's all.
Absolutely. No, I would definitely keep
Should be
updates.
within the
Just-
ballpark, yeah.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry, yep. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's all that I had.
Approval of minutes.
Chair, make motion to approve the minutes of September 26th, public session.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain. Non-public minutes.
Chairman, I make a motion to approve the non-public session minutes of September 26th, 2022. Divulging item 2 only.
I'll second that.
The only reason for discussion is there's been enough speculation out there about it, so I just think it's good to let it out in the public. I don't think there's any reason to hold it under anymore.
Oh, I don't think so either. I think that between the due diligence, that there's enough of it out there.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Same. All right, consent agenda approval.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, public input. Up here.
Good evening. Sylvia French, from Mr. and Mrs. French on Traffside Road. I had two subjects for this evening. One is a safety issue. On Saturday, I turned on to the old Wolfboro Road, and just as two enormous tour buses pulled onto that road ahead of me. And for those of us who travel that road a lot, it can be harrowing sometimes because the people on the water side always want to cut into your lane. Well, in this case, these buses, they were, I believe it was called Yankee Lines.us. They pulled way out over the double line because they couldn't make those tight curves on that road. And the oncoming traffic, it was horrifying. There, several occasions I thought they were going to end up in the lake, and the cars were piling up behind me. And I turned off on Traffside Road, but they kept going all the way to the end of the road. And later in the day, I saw those same buses in Wolfboro at some event. I don't know, that probably is a state road, so they probably have to determine, but I don't see why those tour buses should use that road at all. It's really dangerous, especially with the foliage tours coming into their bloom right now, so to speak. So I don't know if the town can alert the state, bring this up. It should be posted that they can't be on that road. It's almost those of you who've driven on it know that at times it's really tricky, just especially in bad conditions. It's tricky with all those curves. So that was my comment on that. And the other question I'm raising is about the swap shop, which I view as a community spirit issue. The swap shop in Durham has been open in the past 2 years. A relative tells me all the time about what's going on there. So we have a situation now where people are actually don't want to see things trashed and want them to go to people who want them. They're leaving them on their lawns. I've done this myself because at least you feel like someone who really needs it will get it. Whereas if it's just dumped in the hopper, nobody benefits from it. The swap shop was really a treasure of this community, I believe. A lot of people go there. Over the years, I've been part of a small cadre of women largely, but a couple of men too, who when we go there, and if the two ladies who have been in charge of the swap shop, if they're not there, we just take over putting things in order where we knew they had set it up to be orderly. So I believe that there are people out there. I myself would be willing to volunteer some time. When we ask about it, we always get told they can't find anyone to be in charge of the swap shop. But with this hard times on us now, I can't believe there isn't a recently retired person who wouldn't be willing to be in charge of a group of volunteers. And I don't believe there would be any difficulty finding volunteers who wanted to give some time there, because I saw these people like myself doing it all the time. When they went there, they would just pitch in and do whatever they needed to do. But over the years, I have seen school teachers come there. They get materials for their classrooms, daycare people. People tell me that their young people are just starting out in an apartment. They've equipped their first apartment there. There's even been ice fishermen who've come in there looking for cooking stuff to use in their bob hut. It's been a treasure. I saw one man get a seed starting Matt, he was thrilled about it. The kids always dig into the toy chest. They're just thrilled. The books have been wonderful. One man comes in there, or used to come in there a lot, and organize the books, by category. It's a real treasure, and the people really feel it. To me, it doesn't seem like a huge expenditure to make people feel like they're really getting something for their tax money. And it's largely donations, people bringing things. The summer people especially bring a lot of things there. But with this bleak Christmas coming up, I'm hoping that something can be done about that. And I'm willing to, leave my name and a number and as a volunteer, and I'm sure I can find some more people who are willing to volunteer. What is the status of it at this point? Is it not talked about anymore? It's just.
I believe that the last time we were talking, we closed it down for a staffing issue. Was it a staffing issue that we closed it? And safety reasons. There was safety reasons up there that we.
What were the safety reasons?
Didn't we had a trip and fall incident or something, and there was some things that hadn't been worked out yet. But I believe that there was a consensus that we closed it till further notice, till we had sufficient help, and we figured out the problems that we were having up there.
Better place to put it than where it was.
Correct.
We're looking at a more open place out of the way of traffic. And the staffing issue. We put it out there. We tried to hire help. Can't get any help right now.
Well, I see that with the businesses.
Business and the towns too. We've been short-staffed, cemetery all summer. We were short-staffed up to solid waste center most of the summer, and Parks and Rec for the grounds.
Did anybody try going to the senior center to see if someone, to me, this seems like a winner, because it creates so much goodwill, and retired people have some time on their hands, unlike, people are slugging it out.
I understand where you're coming from, but I also had a few folks to me say, well, they hope that they never see it again.
Who said that?
Well, I'm not going to tell you their names. That'd be very unfair. But I had customers come to me and say they hope they didn't, because it causes congestion up there. Going up and around, driving around.
Sounds like Scrooge.
No. Unfortunately, I'm not going to say that. That's very unfair. But there's just some that doesn't feel the town belongs in having a swap shop at the solid waste center. They just don't feel that way. So there's probably 50% that want it, another 50% that don't.
Well, maybe we should take a survey.
Everybody has a different view, but right now it's been more, the point is, talking to the solid waste director, if I'm not mistaken, is he'd like to have it in a different spot. Right now he is trying to configure out different areas because they're constrained on spaces up there. And we did not have the help to do it.
Well, maybe we should put it out to the community. If there might be suggestions, people in the community might have a suggestion where to put it. It is going to stay on those grounds? Is that what you're saying? Or
I couldn't even answer that for you at this point. I really don't know. The Board of Selectmen hasn't gotten that far. We're waiting to hear back from the solid waste center director.
Where it was a little problematic for traffic getting through and getting to the dumpsters to get things in. What had happened in the past has been a lot of people were dropping off things instead of going to the other part of the facility to throw away doors and windows and things. A lot of these things were getting piled up against the building itself, and more stuff was getting in there where the staff would have to take that stuff and remove it and throw it away. And then we don't have the staffing to continue doing that.
Well, one way around that is to have a training for the volunteers to spell out exactly what people can't do and enforce that. I know when Myrna was up there, she was on top of that. They didn't get away with anything when she was there. So I think it's a matter of just, having people who can be firm and say, no, this isn't where this goes. It goes somewhere else. But to me, it is a valuable thing in the community for the spirit of the community, especially now in this horrible situation we're in, where people are really struggling. I mean, there are wealthy people here in this town, but there are some people that are having a hard time making ends meet, and the power thing and everything else is going crazy. So if there were volunteers willing to give some time, this would be a way to open it up so that people could at least have a little extra joy at Christmas time, because there used to be people in there getting Christmas gifts, finding, one man's trash is another man's treasure. They would find just the right present and they would tell you about it. So, and it's also a nice kind of community event. I understand these people were annoyed that there would be some traffic there, but it's offset by the goodwill that the town gets from that swap shop. And more people have asked about it. I hear it all the time. And nothing, there was something in the newspaper sometime back, one of the former select board people, I think it was Mr. Carr, had asked what's going on with the swap shop. So it would be nice if someone could let us know if they're going to make any progress on this, or, I'm willing to try to find some volunteers, because I do think it's important at this time in the dark winter, as the current president likes to refer to it. It is pretty dark for a lot of people, and that was one little ray of light, and it doesn't involve tons of money. And I don't see the safety issue being that. I was up there a fair amount. I never saw this being a horrible issue. So it may be that the staff up there isn't too thrilled with it, if they feel like it made extra work for them. But I think the way around that is to have volunteers that say, no, you can't leave this here. It has to go X, and, point out to people where they take it. So that's my suggestion there. But I'm going to keep after this, because to me, it's a shame, because it was one of the nicest things about this town. And there was a lot of spirit behind it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. I make a motion that we enter into non-public per RSA 91A:3, letter L.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Moss?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.